What's going on, everyone? League sources say Harden also is taking part because he remains hopeful that a trade to the Clippers is still in the works and believes for now that it would be wise to not be a distraction. And the Clippers, league sources say, are going to great lengths to make it happen. League sources say the Clippers have been talking to several teams about ways to move pick swaps for additional draft capital with the intentions of bolstering their offer and getting a deal done. LA offered an unprotected first round pick, a pick swap, and multiple salaries to the 76ers for Harden last July, but Philadelphia rejected the deal per The Athletic. If the Clippers are able to add to their offer in the kind of meaningful way that the two teams have previously discussed, then the next phase in this Harden saga will unfold from there, and the ball, so to speak, would be in Morey's court. But for now, with Sixers camp concluding on Friday and preseason game in Boston on Sunday, it appears likely that Harden's participation will continue. So we got this news, and then we got the other news that basically what the Sixers are asking for are multiple first-round picks and Terrence Mann as like the core of the package. They'll also have to take on things like, Nicholas Batum and Covington and things like that for like salary purposes. But what they want as far as like the actual value return, Terrence Mann and multiple first round picks. So if the Clippers are able to figure that out and get that done, then it's very likely a James Harden trade will happen. Now, as far as him playing ball and being a part of Philadelphia, he has returned to their training camp after a 2-day absence and seems so far, I talked about this yesterday, don't seem to be any like noise coming out of training camp, like negative noise, because a lot of reports was that James Harden wanted to make things very uncomfortable, make things very awkward, and it looks like he's doing what I said he should do, right? Which is kind of just buckle down, do your job. You're a professional athlete that is paid handsomely to be a professional athlete, and the key word there is professional. So conduct yourself in a professional manner, buy in, show that, hey, I'm committed. I'm going to play the game of basketball either way. So that way, Morey doesn't get upset and go, okay, I'll show you. Or the Clippers end up getting scared away and saying like, do we really want that guy on our team after all of this noise and mess? I mean, that's a real thing, right? Like there was talks about that with the Nets. Right? And then even after he left the Nets, there was talks about that. Like, look, James Harden just quit on Houston. I mean, it was so bad. They were asking if he was wearing a fat suit, right? And then he goes to the Nets and he's like sabotaging that. And it's just like he wants out because of Kyrie and just the way that the Nets are structured and how there's no accountability and yada, yada, yada. And then it was like, should Philly even do that? But then it was like, well, Ben Simmons and our situation, it was just a mess. And it was like, okay, well, that mess is better than the mess we're currently in, so let's swap messes. And it's like, well, we also have Daryl Morey, who is James Harden's guy, so let's make that happen. And then that relationship imploded, and now the Sixers are in this tough spot. And look, I've said I think the Sixers should go and trade James Harden. Now, hopefully, if James Harden buys in, right, then that takes a lot of pressure off of Philly, because if he did cause a ruckus, right, and he was a pain, then that could spell big trouble. But even from the Clippers side, even if they actively want James Harden, it just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like does James Harden even really make the Clippers better? Like, how does that fit? How is that going to work? Right? We've already seen what Russell Westbrook and James Harden looks like with a deep team in Houston that was built specifically for James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And yes, the idea of like on paper, I mean, you have Russ, Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. Like that's crazy. But like, so what? James Harden is now the third, fourth guy, right? Like, because Russell Westbrook, he's going to end up being the point guard. So does he come off the bench? Is he willing to do that? Right? And even if he does come off the bench, like, is James Harden going to be okay with kind of playing third fiddle to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? It's just, and defensively, like, that doesn't help, right? Like, But I mean, I don't know if James Harden really makes him that much better. Right? If he was a guy, if he was, prime James Harden, I'd be like, yeah, watch out. Right? Like that could be terrifying, right? Because they'd give him a guy that could just completely take over at any stretch of the imagination. But James Harden's also a guy that just completely disappears. Right? He's a guy that is unreliable in the playoffs. And the Clippers don't really have a history of being healthy in the playoffs, right? Like, what happens if Paul George goes down? Right? Is Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kawhi enough to win? I don't know. I don't think so. Right? And then, even then, like, or if Kawhi goes down, or what if both go down? Russell Westbrook and James Harden were an awkward fit in Houston, and it just, I don't know. I don't know why the Clippers are jumping through hoops to go get James Harden. I just don't. Right? But nonetheless, that's what looks to be happening. I mean, if they look to like trade Paul George or something, although there's reports and talks that Paul George and the Clippers are actively in contract extension discussions, which I don't know why the Clippers keep doing that. Right? Like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard cannot stay healthy and cannot like, in every year it's the same story. So it's like, why do you want to commit to another, like however many years you're going to commit to with them? But that's neither here nor there. That's the Clippers organization. But I mean, if you were looking to trade a Paul George or Kawhi or something like that, then sure, to me that makes a little more sense. It's like, okay, well, you could trade those guys to get maybe some blue chip depth, right, and rotation guys, and then you have Russ, Harden, and like Kawhi Leonard. Maybe that could work better, but it doesn't make sense to me, honestly. I don't see it. It doesn't really buy in. I mean, if you're the Sixers and you could get what you want, then sure, go get what you want. Go get what you can. It's better than losing Harden for nothing, because James Harden is very likely leaving after this season. So if you can go get, a first round, even if you just get a first and Terrence Mann, that's better than nothing for James Harden. Terrence Mann is a very good player that has a lot of upside and potential that could really be a nice foundation piece for them going forward. My big thing when I constantly talk about Philly needs to keep James Harden, or needs to keep Joel Embiid as happy as possible. Hopefully, James Harden does buy in. He does take him and he doesn't rock the boat because he doesn't want to mess anything up or, scare the Clippers away. Because, look, like, I don't know why anybody would want James Harden right now. Because, especially a team trying to trade for him. Like, even the Clippers, right? Again, like, let's say it would work, right? It's just, the issue is you're one bad day away from James Harden doing this to you. And to say that he wouldn't is silly. He's done it in every place he's gone. Right? And so it's like, what's going to happen when that day comes where James Harden's upset for whatever reason and now he wants out and you just traded? It's not like you have a bunch of draft capital and stuff. Like, you have to go and get stuff that you don't even have just to figure it out and make it work. Right? And it's like, for what? To go get a guy that's just going to, mess everything up and just be, a bad day away from trying to implode your roster. I don't know. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Clippers. But again, that's their organization. That's their decision. And if that's what they want to do, they want to go and get James Harden and, make 10 other trades to go get James Harden, then fine, so be it. Right? I guess. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What are your thoughts? How do you feel? Do you think, the Clippers are making the right move, trying to actively go trade for James Harden? Do you think, no, just like I was saying, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why? What's the point? And you run the risk of James Harden getting upset again and just quitting on you or demanding a trade or whatever. And, look, James Harden took a chance on himself this year and it failed miserably. Right? His big power move was like, oh, I'm just going to go back to Houston. And Houston was like, nah, we would rather overpay Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks. We'd rather overpay those guys and give them ridiculous salaries than bring you back, who is our big franchise guy for years, right? I just, who wants James Harden? Like, what team in the league is looking at James Harden and going, man, he's the missing piece. He's the guy. Let's go trade everything and go get him. And also, if you're the Clippers, there's nobody else you're competing with, right? Like, why are you bending your back to try to go get James Harden when it's like, well, what are your other options? Take Terrence Mann, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, and a first-round pick and a pick swap or whatever. And good luck. Go find another trade. If you can't, go trade Harden elsewhere. Because if we back out and leave, guess what? James Harden's going to throw a tantrum again. If this deal falls through, James Harden's just playing ball because he wants to get traded. If he's not going to get traded, I don't see him playing ball. I think he throws the hissy fit, he throws the tantrum, and Philly starts to implode. And now you run the risk of losing Joel Embiid. But anyway, again, let me know your thoughts and opinions. However you feel, down in the comments below.